Joe Pal Tom here on the Tom Gulley Show. Let me tell you about the shadow. That's right, the shadow. You may think you know about the shadow, and you may think, who knows what evil lurks in the hearts of men, and that's true, and you may think it's a radio program, and you'd be right there, but the shadow is way, way, way more than that. Now, it does speak to how incredibly successful and effective the shadow was, that nearly 100 years later, we can still remember that line. And we still remember that it was one of the really great shows of old-time radio. But it's also extremely confusing, the history of the shadow. And it's, every time you think you know something, everybody's name changes, and I'll get into it. I can also tell you that who knows what evil lurks in the hearts of men. That's a great line. Let's not forget that. And you may think that you know who the shadow is, but I can almost certainly tell you you do not know who the shadow is. And I'm going to tell you who the shadow actually is. But there's a better line. Well, not a better line, but there's a really great line that was delivered at the end of every episode of The Shadow that I just love. I just love it. Incidentally, I'm going to open up the actual show here in a minute with some pretty long clips from an episode of The Shadow, so you don't have to wonder about what The Shadow. I'm going to play some of it for you. But at the end of every episode, the Shadow announcer, who was not the Shadow, it's complicated. The same guy that does who knows what evil lurks, that guy, he comes on at the end and says, "The weed of crime bears bitter fruit. Crime does not pay." Oh, it's great. It's absolutely fabulous. This, of course, is our cold open that we do for our audio podcast listeners. So when they happen on the show, they know it's a show where we're going to talk about stuff, even though I'm going to play 2 songs here in a minute. That just gives people time to get into our live interactive YouTube chat room. Can you dig it? And that's great. That's what it's for. And they're toe tappers, but nobody's going to look askance at you if you just go ahead and fast forward to the top of the hour and the top of the show when we start talking about the shadow. And I am going to play some, and I'll mention this again. The episode that I have chosen of the Shadow on the radio started in about 1937. The episode I have selected is from December of 1941. Just about 2 weeks after the attack on Pearl Harbor. And I've got a bunch of interesting things about this particular episode. Gonna blow your mind, man. It is. Really is gonna blow your mind. So I'll try to weave through this very complicated tale of the Shadow, which spans print, all kinds of print, by the way, and the radio, and the movies, and all of its influences, and everything else about the Shadow. First, though, we're going to play a couple toe tappers by our musical director, Leon Kennedy, and then let me tell you about the Shadow.
mic in hand, he's a podcast pro. Evil schemes on wherever he goes. Clap your hands now. Tom don't run, Tom don't hide. He's got that funky justice stride. With the bass line bump and the horns on blast. He's fighting those puppets, making it last. Say, Tom Gulley, say the man. Take Gulley, Gulley. He's got the plan. He's the man. The man from Gulley. Oh yeah, he'll outsmart the dabber verse. Every day's the man. The man from Gulley. Taking down those puppets in his funky way.
Spin the records on the radio dial. Now I'm on the screen with my YouTube style. Keeping it real, baby, that's alright. We're swinging through the topics every single night. That's what we're talking about. That's what we're talking about. Nothing special, nothing grand, but that's the show you understand. From the mic to the camera, hear me shout. That's what we're talking about. Yeah, that's what we're talking about. Got opinions, got stories, got a thing or two to say. Pour a drink, settle in, we're doing it our way. From the headlines to the punchlines, we cover all the ground. Tom Gulley is in the house, and we're laying it down. That's what we're talking about. That's what we're talking about. Nothing special, nothing grand, but that's the show you understand. From the mic to the camera, hear me shout. That's what we're talking about. Yeah, that's what we're talking about. From AM waves to the digital scene, still the sharpest talker that you've ever seen. We keep it real, we keep it sharp, we keep it true. For radio days or YouTube nights, we're breaking through. With a late night broadcast or the earlier show, we're talking about everything and things you didn't know. That's what we're talking about. That's what we're talking about. Nothing special, nothing grand, but that's the show you understand. From the night through the camera, hear me shout. That's what we're talking about. Yeah, that's what we're talking about. That's what we're talking about. That's what we're talking about. Nothing special, can't you see? But that's the Gulley guarantee. That's what we're talking about. 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 That's what we're talking about.
Hey, everybody, what's going on? What's hot? What's hip? What's happening? What's shaking? Let me tell you about The Shadow as we are buffering up to a proper frames per second speed. The Shadow began long before the radio show that you think the shadow is. And what makes it more confusing is the shadow started out as a voice on the radio before it began being something else. And about 7 years later, it became the radio show. It's confusing. I'll clear it all up for you. But first, do me a favor. Like, share, subscribe, retweet, notification bell. All the absolutely free things that you can do that don't cost you anything but a click. And man, I'm telling you, YouTube is not our friend today on the video side. I am telling you. Uh-oh, hold on. We're getting a reason. Oh, we just dropped down again. Anyway, do me a favor. Like, share, subscribe, retweet, notification bell. Just cost you a click. Helps us out with the algorithm, the almighty, all-powerful, all-knowing algorithm, which is the most important thing ever on earth. And then also, plus, in addition to as well, we have the super chats, the memberships, the gifted memberships. I'm just going to go ahead and point out right now, Sober as a Judge, coming in hot with a $20 super chat. Wow, that's big money for these parts. So I will thank you very much for that. That is highly appreciated. And we also have the TomGulleyShow.com. Merchandise is there. If you go to the merch store, you can get yourself a nice t-shirt or something. And that'll be great. In our chat room currently, we have Randy, the chef. And he says the crew is in the kitchen there at Geraldine's Supper Club and Lounge in Indianapolis, just off Fountain Square on English Avenue. Bro Fister is here. He says, hey, Gully, the Hunter is here. And J.C. Vastgod says, pack of cigarettes right there. No idea what that means. Another cryptic, pointless chat room remark by J.C. Vastgod. I don't know what we'd do if he actually contributed something pertinent to the show. It would be But I am very excited about this. Let me tell you about this shadow, because the reason that I'm excited about it is that I am going to start the show off by a little tiny description, and then I'm going to play you some snippets from the radio program, The Shadow, because that's what everybody wants, right? The Shadow is actually, as you might expect, it's a fictional character. It is not a real character. Wow, are we just not buffering properly today? Thanks, YouTube, or something. I'm sure it's not my fault. And it was created by a magazine, the publishers of a magazine, and a writer for that magazine. Now, I'll get into all that later, but to make things more confusing, the writer of the magazine, let me just put a graphic up here because it's bothering me that the video is not as pristine as we would like to see it. There we go. That'll cure a lot of problems. The Shadow was originally created to be a narrator and narrate radio shows that supported this particular magazine publisher. Okay? Now, The Shadow over the years has been in everything: comic books, comic strips, serials, video games, movies, 5 feature films, and, of course, the legendary radio drama that was originally voiced by Orson Welles, also a legend. Technically, The Shadow debuted on July 31st of 1930 on the radio. I'm not going to get into the whole story, but the show that you know as The Shadow didn't appear until 7 years later in 1937 as the result, actually, of a public outcry. Now, keep in mind, this was just supposed to be a one-off narrator kind of character that would never have a backstory, that would just narrate the opening of the show. That was it. So they had to create a whole show around this voice that had just been talking narration. Not the easiest thing in the world to do. Now, the episode I'm about to play you, and I'm not going to play a ton of it, I'm going to play you a little bit of the opening, and then I'm going to play a little bit of the ending. I chose one from 1941, from December of 1941, and I did so for several reasons. The early episodes of The Shadow, now I can listen to them because I'm a freak for old-time radio. I mean, I've got 10,000 old-time radio programs. That's not an exaggeration. On MP3, on discs here. I have all of the Great Gildersleeve, all of the Jack Benny Show, all of Fibber McGee and Molly, all of the Abbott and Costello Show, all of the Kraft Music Hall, which was the Bing Crosby Show. I have all of the Pepsodent Hour, which was the Bob Hope Show. I have all of the Seal Test Variety Hour, which was the Dorothy Lamour Show. I mean, I'm a freak for old-time radio. So I can listen to the early episodes of The Shadow, but they are really not well recorded. There's pops and hisses, and they're just not pleasant to the ear. So I chose this one. This episode actually is, amongst old-time radio freaks like myself, thought of as one of the best recordings. And it's from December 21st of 1941. That's just 2 weeks after the attack on Pearl Harbor. That will make its way into the broadcast I'm about to play you. Also, the longtime sponsor of The Shadow was a company called Blue Coal. Now, keep in mind that a lot of people still heated their homes with coal at this time. What was blue coal? Well, blue coal was a very special kind of coal found in a certain section of the mountains. I'm kidding. Blue coal was treated to be blue as a marketing difference from all the other kinds of coal that existed. That's it. There was really no other difference. You're also going to hear a voice in this opening that I play you. And I'm not going to tell you who it is. I want to see if anybody can guess what later character this voice played. Not on the radio, but in spectacularly successful fashion on television. You're going to hear the voice just a little bit. To me, it's unmistakable. It might not be to you. I'll play a little bit of the opening, and then I'm going to play you the very ending. Okay? I might not comment during that time because I have to switch from two different audio sources, and it's a thing. Trust me, it's a thing. And so, without further ado, I'll also point out that they did have sound effects on this show, but almost a character on this show was the organ that you will hear playing throughout it for dramatic purposes. Yes. So here we go with The Shadow.
The thrilling adventures of The Shadow are on the air, brought to you each week at this time by your neighborhood blue coal dealer. These dramatizations are designed to demonstrate forcibly to old and young alike that crime does not pay. This country's war supplies cannot wait. Everything else must be sidetracked. For this reason, it's wise to lay in a full supply of coal right now. Call your neighborhood blue coal dealer and tell him you want your bin filled clear to the top. Better be safe than sorry. Today, coal transportation facilities are adequate to take care of all requirements. But who knows what sudden change tomorrow might bring? Your reliable blue coal dealer is ready to serve you quickly, serve you with all you want of this tested, superior home fuel. So please order without delay. Be prepared. The Shadow, mysterious character who aids the forces of law and order, is in reality Lamont Cranston, wealthy young man about town. Several years ago in the Orient, Cranston learned a strange and mysterious secret. The secret of hypnotic power to cloud men's minds so that they cannot see him. Cranston's friend and companion, the lovely Margot Lane, is the only person who knows to whom the voice of the invisible shadow belongs. Today's drama, Death Imported. The time, 11:30 at night. The place, the warden's office of the State Hospital for the Criminally Insane.
Come in.
Warden 7809 wants to talk to you.
I'll bring him in.
Yes, sir. Go in, Piran.
Thank you.
What is it, Piran?
I want to talk to you alone, Warden.
All right. Leave us alone, guard.
Yes, sir.
Now, what do you want, Piran?
I want to get out of here.
Guards told me you were having one of your spells. Now, you know that's impossible.
Maybe it is, and maybe it isn't.
Where did you get that knife?
Never mind where I got it. I got it, and I know how to use it.
Now, listen to me, Piran.
Don't reach for that alarm if you want to live.
What are you going to do?
I'm going to get out of this place, and you're going to help me.
I'm going to give you no help, Piran.
Yes, you are, Warden, or you die. There's a supply truck coming into the grounds in exactly 7 minutes. I'm leaving on that truck, and you're helping me.
You'll have to kill me before I give you any help.
You'll feel the cold blade of my knife on your throat, Warden. It would be so easy.
You'll never get away with this, Piran.
Oh, yes, Warden. When a man has something to do, he does it. And I have several bits of unfinished business. Come on. Let's go.
Extra paper, read all about it. Daring escape from state prison, warden murdered. Extra paper, warden murdered.
Now, look, Cranston, Miss Lane, it's getting late. Why don't you two go on home? I've got my reports to check. I tell you, Judge Emery is perfectly safe.
Perhaps he is perfectly safe, Commissioner. But with George Perrin still loose and the police unable to find
I
him...
tell you, you're making a mountain out of a...
Molehill.
Thanks, out of a molehill.
Well, Perrin escaped 3 weeks ago, and there's been no trace of him.
Just call Judge Emery, Commissioner, and if he's all right, we won't bother you anymore.
Cranston, Judge Emery asked us to keep his whereabouts secret.
Then he is worried.
Well, of course he is, with that nut running around loose saying that he's going to murder him.
Hardly a molehill, Commissioner.
Now, listen, Cranston, this is not a problem for amateur sleuths.
Okay, Margot, let's go. You better double-lock your door tonight, Commissioner.
Yeah, thanks, I will. I don't get it.
So long.
Goodbye, Commissioner.
Wait a minute, come back here.
Yes, Commissioner?
What did you mean by that double lock your door crack?
Well, after all, you were the man who finally caught Perrin, and he said he was going to get all the people responsible for his being sent to prison.
And if I remember correctly, you were to be victim number 2 on his murder parade.
He did? I mean, I am? Yeah. Well, maybe I had better phone Judge Emery just to
see if he's all right.
Yeah. Hello? Hello?
Number, please.
Get me... it's that cold of mine. I mean, get me Valley 7904.
Valley 7904.
Yeah, that's right.
One moment, please.
Of course, this is all very silly, calling him up like this. Piranha's just a bluffer. He can't get away with a thing like this.
Here's your party.
Yes, thanks. Hello?
This is Judge Emery's residence.
Yes. This is Commissioner Weston calling. I want to speak to the judge, please.
I'm sorry, but Judge Emery is indisposed. He can't come to the phone.
Oh. Well, tell him that I called. It's nothing important.
I'll do that, sir.
Everything's all right out there.
Oh, yes. Perfect.
Uh-huh. Who's this speaking? The butler?
Now, Commissioner Weston, this is George Perrin.
Can't he get more speed out of this car?
We're doing 65 now, Cranston.
How far does Judge Emery live from here?
About 10 more miles. He's at his country home.
And we've got to make that 10 miles in a hurry, Commissioner, or Judge Emery hasn't got a chance.
Okay. Cardona, give us all she's got.
Right, Commissioner.
rid of these bundles. Oh, Father! Father, I'm home. Where are you? Father! Father! That's funny. The lights are all on. He said he'd wait up for me. Oh, Dad! Are you upstairs? Perhaps he's gone to bed. Dad, I was just... Strange, he's not in his room. Dad! Dad! Oh, don't frighten me. Tell me where you are. Guess I'd better look on the 3rd floor, but there's no reason for him to be on the... What's that? Dad, are you playing games with me? Oh, you're in that room, aren't you? Now, Dad, wasn't it rather... Oh, no.
Come. I take you to your father.
Take me to... What have you done with him?
You'll see.
Stay away from me. Don't come any closer.
Master say bring Judge's daughter too, he
Stay
say.
away from me. Stay away!
I gotcha.
Well, it sounds like there's quite a pickle going on there at the residence of the judge. Let's see if I can fast forward it to a point where the shadow actually makes his appearance, or somewhere close.
Judge Emery about...
Judge Emery?
Well, yes. Do you know him? He has that big house about a mile or so from here. He was saying
When
that...
did you see him?
See him? Why, Judge Emery's an old friend of mine. May I come in?
Huh? Oh, yes. Yes, come in.
Thank you.
You were saying something about talking to Judge Emery?
Yes. He told me that this old mill was deserted, and I was thinking of renting it and fixing it up for a summer home.
I see. When did you last see and speak with Judge Emery? I don't believe I caught your name.
Cranston. Lamont Cranston.
Cranston, eh? Name sounds very familiar to me.
Does it? But as I was saying, Judge Emery must have been mistaken about the availability of this place of yours.
Yes.
Well, I think I'll run right over and tell him so.
Wouldn't you think it strange, Mr. Cranston, if someone came to your door at 2 o'clock in the morning and asked you whether you wanted to rent your home?
Good heavens, is it that late?
Yes.
Well, I guess I'd better be running along, and I'm so sorry to have disturbed you.
Don't mention it, Mr. Cranston. Perhaps we shall meet again.
Perhaps. Good night, Mr. Grogan.
Perhaps we shall meet again. Sooner than you think. Rolo.
Yes, master.
There was a man just here. He can't have gotten very far. Go out and get him.
Yes, master. I go.
Yes. We shall meet again, Mr. Cranston. And my little pets will have another meal very soon.
Dad. Oh, Dad.
Jane Emery.
What? Who called my name?
The shadow, Miss Emery.
There's so little light in here, I can't see you.
The light wouldn't help you to see the shadow, Miss Emery. No one has ever seen me.
What do you want of me?
I want to help you escape from here.
Oh, no, Shadow. Let him kill me, too. There's nothing left for me now. Now that my father's dead. I just want to die now.
Duran killed him?
Yes, he threw him to those beasts to be eaten alive. He made me watch.
Beasts?
Crocodiles. They're in a pit under this room.
Yes. There seems to be a trap door here.
Oh, please. Please close it again. Close it. Close it.
How did Duran obtain these crocodiles?
The man who lived here in this old mill raised all types of tropical animals to sell to zoos.
I see. And Duran used them to accomplish his revenge on your father.
Yes, he did.
Well, the shadow will see that he pays for his crimes.
Oh, please. Please don't do that to me.
Quiet, Miss Lane.
Jane Emery, I'll be back for you in a few minutes. Right now, there is someone who needs my help more urgently than you do.
What have you done with them? I know they're here.
Suppose I were to say that they were here, miss. What would you do?
I'd go to the police.
Yes, I see. But I'm afraid you won't be able to go to the police, miss, because you won't leave this place.
The giant.
Rollo, didn't you find him?
No. I no find him. He get away.
You fool. Now we'll have the police swarming over this place like ants. Come, miss. I have a little surprise for you.
Take your hands off me.
Oh, so you won't come, hmm? Rollo, carry her into the other room.
Yes, master.
No, stay away from me. No, stay away!
What? Fainted, miss? I'd expected to take a little more time with my revenge, but now they'll all have to die together. Jane Emery, Weston, and this girl.
No, Piran. I will stop you.
Who said that?
The shadow, George Piran. Order your giant to put Miss Lane down.
I can't see you, but if you're so powerful, Shadow, you order him.
Rollo, put her down.
Huh. What? Where voice coming from?
Rollo, do as I say. You must obey me.
I'm your master, Brolo. I order you to take her into the room with the trapdoor. We'll feed our beauties well tonight.
Yes, master. I do what you say.
Rollo, listen to me. He is not your master. The things he has made you do are evil. He has made you do them.
Don't listen to him. I'm your master, Brolo. You must obey me. Here, throw her down here.
Stop, Rollo. Stop.
I must obey you, master. I must obey.
Yes. Yes. See who's strong in our Shadow.
Rollo, you must not do this. I will protect you from him. He has twisted your mind. He makes you kill.
You've lost, Shadow. Into the pit with her, Brolo.
Rollo, no. Put her down. Safely.
Yes. I put her down safe.
No.
Like voice say.
No, Brolo, I am your master. I order you to...
Ah. You make me kill.
No, Brolo.
You make me do bad things.
No, Brolo.
Now you go into pit.
No, Brolo, listen to me. Don't come any closer. Don't, I command you.
Stop, Rollo.
No, voice. He is bad. Now he is going to die.
Go right into the commissioner's office, Miss Lane and Mr. Cranston. The commissioner will be in a minute.
Thanks, Cardona.
Thanks.
Well, I think we all saw that one coming. You just can't trifle with the Shadow, really, you know. Now listen to the end of this program. By the way, did anyone guess who played the voice of the guard very briefly at the very beginning of this episode? Well, I can tell you it was none other than Alan Reed, the voice of Fred Flintstone, who was big in the radio biz as well. Now listen to the final 90 seconds of this show. Now keep in mind, this is 2 weeks after the attack on Pearl Harbor. Just 2 weeks. And already all the programming on all the shows, not just the big ones like The Shadow here, already all of it was 100% against the evil enemies that had attacked us.
In Hawaii and the Philippines, American soldiers are fighting and dying for you. How much are you doing for them? Give them a hand. Back them up. Do your bit. Buy United States Defense Savings Bonds and Stamps, and you can consider every dollar a bullet sent flying straight at the enemy. Go to your nearest bank or post office. Buy a bond.
I want a United States Defense Savings Bond, please. Here's the money.
Buy a bond so that on the firing line your soldiers can say this.
Is the ammunition running low?
No, sir. New supplies just arrived.
Atta boy, now we'll make them sorry they ever started this war.
Do your part. Every week, buy United States Defense Savings Bonds or Stamps. On sale at every bank or post office. Let's teach aggressor nations the truth of the warning.
The weed of crime bears bitter fruit. Crime does not pay. The Shadow knows.
Next week, same time, same station, your friendly Blue Coal dealer brings you another strange and thrilling adventure in the Shadow's daring battle against the forces of evil. Be sure to listen, and be sure to phone your neighborhood Blue Coal dealer for greater heating comfort at less cost. Remember, keep the home fires burning with Blue Coal. This story produced by the DL&W Coal Company, distributors of Blue Coal.
Does it strike anyone that this show, old-time radio, maybe in the minds of a lot of people, was hokey or tame? These shows were incredibly violent. I mean, incredibly violent. They had no problem at all throwing people into a pit of crocodiles. Slitting their throats in the first 3 minutes of the show. It was a thing. So that's the Shadow. That's what you think of as the Shadow. And you're not wrong to think that. You're really not. That's, let's say, the Cadillac of the Shadow franchise. But that's not the full story of the Shadow. And the Shadow has another name. Lamont Cranston is not the real name of the Shadow, no matter what you might think. Let's go to our chat room real quickly before I get into this. Sober judge, as the judge thinks, so he's saying coal burners were around back then too. Oh, yes, they were. JC, I'm just skipping your absolutely... I don't even know what you're talking about. Sober as the judge says, this sounds so much cleaner than the early episodes indeed. Yeah, the early episodes are great, and obviously Orson Welles is great, and Agnes Moorehead is great, but they're just rough on the ears. They really are. Guido Samurai's here. He said he really liked Alec Baldwin as the Shadow. We'll talk about that movie later. The Wolf, as always, has a story. It says... It's called The Shadow, pronounced the way one of my former challenged employees said it. He said, only the shadow knows. I said, yeah, it's pronounced shadow, not shadow. Sober as the judge says, The Silent Avenger is one of my favorite episodes. So memorable. Well, I'll tell you where a lot of these episodes came from in just a second. Wolf says, that sounds like Eric von Stroheim. Did just a little bit. Was that the voice of Alberti? Is he older than I think? No, that is not the voice of John Alberti. Okay. To boost the sales of its magazine called Detective Story Magazine, all right? A company called Street and Smith Publications, which I guess in these days and subsequently was very famous for its sports magazines. But at the time, they had a whole complement of magazines, and to promote the sales of detective story magazines, they hired a guy named David Chrisman of an ad agency and a writer-director named William Sweets to adapt the magazine's detective stories into a radio series. And you might be thinking, oh, and that's where the Shadow came from. No, it's not. Chrisman and Sweets thought the upcoming series should be narrated by a mysterious storyteller with a sinister voice. And they began searching for a suitable name for this character. One of the scriptwriters suggested various possibilities like the inspector or the sleuth. But then he proposed the ideal name for the phantom announcer. And that name was The Shadow. And thus, beginning on July 31st, 1930, The Shadow was the name given to the mysterious narrator of the Detective Story Hour radio program. So this magazine company, to promote the sale of the magazine, had a radio show, all right? This is so complicated, I'm telling you. So the narrator was originally voiced by a guy named James Licurto, who was replaced after 4 months by prolific character actor Frank Reddick Jr. The episodes were drawn from the Detective Story magazine, and this was the nation's oldest and largest publisher of pulp magazines at the time. Pulp magazines being kind of cheap, seedy, tabloidy. Although the company hoped the radio broadcast would boost the declining sales of Detective Story magazine, the result was quite different. Listeners found the sinister announcer much more compelling than the unrelated stories. They soon began asking news dealers for copies of that shadow detective magazine, even though a shadow detective magazine did not at the time exist. Well, recognizing this demand and responding immediately, the circulation manager of Street and Smith commissioned a guy by the name of Walter B. Gibson to begin writing stories about the shadow. Now, to make things more complicated, Walter B. Gibson wrote under the pen name of Maxwell Grant, claiming that the stories were from the Shadow's private files, as told to him. Gibson wrote 282 out of the 325 tales over the next 20 years, and a novel-length story twice a month on the 1st and the 15th. He was cranking them out. The first story produced was The Living Shadow, April 1st, 1931, April Fool's Day. So it's April of 1931. The radio show won't begin for another 6 years. Gibson's description of the shadow laid the foundations for this superhero, including the stylized imagery, and the titles of all the episodes, the sidekicks. There's way more than one sidekick. And frankly, the radio sidekick was very controversial. Margot Lane, woo boy, people lost their minds on that. I'll tell you about it in a minute. The supervillains and the secret identity. Clad in black, the Shadow operated mainly after dark as a vigilante in the name of justice, terrifying criminals into vulnerability. Gibson himself claimed the literary inspirations for the Shadow came from a number of places. Bram Stoker's Dracula and Edward Bulwer Lytton's The House and the Brain. Another possible inspiration, many people have pointed to it, is the French character Judex. The first episode of the original Judex film serial released in the United States was actually called The Mysterious Shadow, and his costume is almost identical to the Shadow's. French comics historian Javier Fournier notes other similarities with another serial from the Silence called The Shielding Shadow, whose hero had a power of invisibility, and he thinks that the Shadow was part of that too. In fact, in the 1940s, some of the Shadow comic strips were translated into French over in France as The Adventures of Judex, because they dressed alike. Because of the great effort that it took to write 2 full-length novels every month, several guest writers were hired to occasionally write installments to lighten Maxwell Gibson's workload. Those guest writers included Lester Dent, and he is well known because he also wrote the Doc Savage stories. Doc Savage was a huge character back at this time. I often wonder what happened to Doc Savage. You'd think he would just translate into modern day. He was kind of an Indiana Jones type of character. Theodore Tinsley was another writer. He wrote something called The Scarlet Ace as well. Bruce Eliot was a mystery novelist and a magician, and he temporarily replaced Walter Gibson as the primary writer. But Walter Gibson was hip deep in the shadow. He wasn't going to stand for that. No, he really wasn't. He just wasn't. Anyway, the shadow novels continued for a long time, even after Street and Smith quit publishing the magazine, kind of at the end of the radio series. The Shadow magazine ceased publication in the summer of 1949, but Walter Gibson wrote 3 new official stories between 1963 and 1980, and they were published by Belmont Books. And in that additional stuff, he's given much more significant psychic powers, Shadow returned in 1915 in the authorized novel The Sinister Shadow. The novel was written by a guy named Will Murray. A famous writer by the name of James Patterson in 2020 announced a new series that he would write. And the first novel, The Shadow, was released in 2021, and it updated the Shadow as a character, included some science fiction elements, things of that sort. But the character and the look of the Shadow morphed throughout its existence. It really, really did. It changed quite a bit. Let's see what's in our chat room right now. Oh, nothing. Well then. As depicted in the magazines, the Shadow wore a wide-brimmed hat, a fedora, and a black crimson cloak with an upturned collar over a standard black business suit. In the 1940s comics, and in the later comic book series, and in the 1994 film that starred Alec Baldwin, he wore either the black hat or a wide-brimmed fedora and a crimson scarf just below his nose, across his mouth and chin. He had a double-breasted trench coat or a regular black suit. The Shadow would also wear his hat and scarf with either a black Inverness coat or an Inverness cape. In the radio drama, there's a lot of differences between the well-established character of the Shadow as written in the magazine stories and 2 novels every month. There were 7 years of people becoming addicted to this character in print. It was back when people read books and read magazines, and people were very invested in that. But in the radio drama, the Shadow doesn't wear a costume because he's invisible when he operates as a vigilante. He's clouding men's minds. No one can see him. No one's ever seen him. Time constraints of 1930s radio made it difficult to explain to listeners where the Shadow was and where he was hiding and how he remained concealed from criminals till he was ready to strike. So he was given invisibility, meaning the criminals, like the radio audience, only knew him by his haunting voice. The actors used their normal voice when the hero was in his civilian identity of Lamont Cranston, and effects were added when he became invisible and was the Shadow, having that sinister, omnipresent quality. To explain this power, and this is something that wasn't done in the stories, in print. To explain this power, the radio episodes would constantly point out that while a young man, the Shadow traveled around the world and then through the Orient, where he learned how to read thoughts and became a master of hypnotism, granting him the mysterious power to cloud men's minds so they could not see him. In the episode the Temple Bells of Nabon, the Shadow said he developed these abilities in India, specifically under the guidance of a yogi priest who was the keeper of the Temple of Cobras in Delhi. He does not wear a mask or any disguise while invisible, and so in episodes like the Temple Bells of Nabon, he's cautious when he meets an enemy who could potentially disrupt his hypnotic abilities, exposing his true face and making him a target for attack. Sober as a Judge says, and his magic ring, of course. Oh, we'll get to the ring. Sometimes it's purple, sometimes it's red. It's all over the place. Just like everything else with the Shadow, it's all over the place. The Wolf says, well, Gibson is quite the Bickerby. The Shadow is truly frightening and sinister. Perhaps my watching it recently has caused my emotional trauma. Maybe, I don't know. Now, here's the thing about Lamont Cranston not being the actual name of the Shadow. We're going to get into this, all right? Because this is a sticking point, and I always try to be extremely accurate. In the print adventures, the Shadow is not Lamont Cranston, but Kent Allard. Although his real name is not revealed until The Shadow Unmasks in 1937. Early stories explain he was once a famed aviator who fought for the French during World War I, known as the Black Eagle, according to one character in The Shadow's Shadow. Later stories revise this alias as the Dark Eagle, beginning with The Shadow Unmasks. After the war's conclusion, Kent Allard finds a new challenge in waging war on criminals. He falsifies his death by crash landing his plane in Guatemala, encountering the indigenous Xinca tribe as a result, who see him as a supernatural being and provide him with 2 loyal aides. He returns to the United States and takes residence in New York City, adopting numerous identities to acquire valuable information and conceal his true nature, and recruiting a variety of agents to aid in his war on crime, only a few of whom are aware of his other identities. As the vigilante called the Shadow, Kent Allard hunts down and often violently confronts criminals. Oh, yes. Did I say violently? Yes, and I mean violently. He was not messing around. He was armed with 2 M1911 pistols, and he sometimes used magic tricks. That's right, magic tricks, to convince his prey that he is, in fact, supernatural. Really supernatural. He put the super in supernatural. Let me tell you. One such trick is in the Devil's Whisper. A chemical compound on the thumb and forefinger causes a flash of bright flame and sharp explosion when he snaps his fingers. The Shadow is also known for wearing a girasol ring with a purple stone, sometimes depicted as a red stone in cover artwork, given to Kent Allard by the Tsar of Russia. And that's from the episode The Romanovs' Jewels in 1932, the story, not the episode. This happened during World War I. The ring is later said to be one of 2 rings made with gemstones taken from the eyes of an idol made by the Xinca tribe. And that's from The Shadow Unmasks. The Shadow's best known alter ego, so a character sort of that Kent Allard plays, is Lamont Cranston, a wealthy young man about town. In the Pulp stories and novels, Lamont Cranston is actually a separate person, a completely separate individual than Kent Allard. He's a rich playboy who travels the world while the Shadow uses Lamont Cranston's identity and resources in New York. The Shadow's disguise as Cranston works well because the two men resemble each other. Now, in their first meeting, the Shadow threatens Cranston, saying that unless the playboy agrees to allow Kent Allard to use his identity when he's overseas, then Allard will simply take over the man's identity entirely, having already made arrangements to begin the process, including switching signatures on various documents. Although alarmed at first, the real Lamont Cranston agrees, deciding that sharing his resources and identity is better than losing them both entirely. And the two men in the stories, in print, sometimes meet in order to impersonate each other. And as Cranston in the print stories, the Shadow often attends the Cobalt Club, an exclusive restaurant and lounge catering to the wealthy, and associates with New York City Police Commissioner Ralph Weston. He's got a ton of other disguises, does the Shadow, by the way. I mean a ton of them. He's got a buttload of them. Want to hear about them? Let me tell you about it. Here I go. He's got a lot of them. Businessman Harry Arnaud, who, like Cranston, is a real person whose identity Kent Allard simply uses at times. Elderly Isaac Twombly, who first appears in No Time for Murder. And Fritz, an old, seemingly slow-witted, uncommunicative janitor who works at police headquarters, listening in on conversation, examining recovered evidence. In The Teeth of the Dragon and later stories, including The Golden Pagoda, the Shadow is known in Chinatown as Ying Ko, often fighting the criminal Tong. In the 2015 Altus Press novel, The Sinister Shadow, Will Murray, the author, he has the Shadow masquerading as celebrated criminologist George Clarendon of Chicago, a past member of the Cobalt Club and longtime friend of Commissioner Weston. For the entire first half of the Shadow's tenure in these pulp publications, his past and true identity, outside of his Cranston disguise, are ambiguous. In The Living Shadow, a thug claiming to have seen the Shadow's face recalls seeing a piece of white that looked like a bandage. In The Black Master and The Shadow's Shadow, the villains of both stories see the Shadow's true face and remark that the vigilante is a man of many faces with no face of his own. It was not until the August 1937 issue, The Shadow Unmasks, that the Shadow's real name was revealed. And keep in mind, it's now 1937, and now the radio show is on the air, which may or may not conflict with what's going on in all these publications. In the radio drama, the Allard secret identity and backstory, they dropped it completely because it's too complicated. It may be too complicated for this show. In the radio version, the Shadow is really and only Lamont Cranston, with no other regular cover identities, although he does adopt disguises and short-term aliases during some of the adventures, just like Jim Rockford or anybody else. The radio version of Cranston travels the world to, quote, learn the old mysteries that modern science has not yet rediscovered. Along with learning skills and knowledge in Europe, Africa, and Asia, he spends time training with a yogi priest, keeper of the Temple of the Cobras, you know. And that's how he learns how to hypnotize and cloud their minds. He explicitly states in several episodes his talents are not magic, but based on science. He returns to New York and decides he can best aid the police and the city by operating outside the law as an invisible vigilante. He is only slightly less ruthless and slightly more compassionate than the version that's in the print stories. And he doesn't have this vast network of agents and operatives. Only his cab driver and chauffeur, Shrevey, makes regular appearances on the radio series, but that character, too, is different than the print counterpart. Like I said, it's confusing. It's confusing. But he does, in the radio version, have a vast network of agents who help him. Harry Vincent is a guy that the Shadow saves his life, and in the Pulp stories anyway, and one of his most trusted agents after he gets his life saved. Shrevey is actually named Moses Mo Shrevnitz, a cab driver, doubling as the Shadow's chauffeur. The radio version of Shrevey is dim-witted and doesn't knowingly work for the Shadow, aiding only Lamont Cranston. Peter Boyle actually portrayed Shrevey in the 1994 Alec Baldwin film. Margot Lane. Now, Margot Lane is very, very controversial. She was not in the print version at all. None. Created totally for the radio drama. And she's the Shadow's companion, and she loves the Shadow. She aids the Shadow in nearly every radio episode and was later introduced into the magazines after the radio show. Penelope Ann Miller performed the role in the 1994 film. And in that movie, Margot has the power of telepathy, which is just stupid. There's others, a newspaper reporter named Clyde Burke, a guy named Burbank, who's a radio operator who maintains contact between the Shadow and his agents. Cliff Marsland, man with a checkered past known to the Shadow, having spent years in Sing Sing in maximum security for a crime he didn't commit. He's wrongly believed by the underworld to have murdered one or more people, so he's able to infiltrate gangs for the Shadow. Dr. Rupert Sayer, the Shadow's personal physician. I could go on and on and on. There was a lot of them from the Pulp. Though initially wanted by the police, the Shadow also works with and works through them, gleaning information from his many chats as Lamont Cranston, not as the Shadow, at the Cobalt Club with NYPD Commissioner Ralph Western and later Commissioner Wainwright Barth, who's also Cranston's uncle and portrayed by Jonathan Winters in the Alec Baldwin film. Weston believes Cranston is merely a rich playboy who dabbles in detective work out of curiosity. In contrast to the print version, the radio drama limited the cast of major characters to the Shadow, Commissioner Weston, and Margot Lane. That's it. Margot was created to give the Shadow a love interest, and because it was believed if it was another guy on the show, it would be too many male characters because the criminals were usually male, and it could make the show impossible to understand, in terms of distinguishing between the voices. Shadow had some bad enemies. Shawan Khan, last living descendant of Genghis Khan. Yes, Dr. Rodil Mokino, voodoo master who uses hypnosis to make people do his bidding. Wasp, Basil Ganiford, criminal mastermind with a bulbous head on a frail frame. whose grasp contained an electric sting and spoke in a buzzing voice. Benedict Stark, self-described Prince of Evil. The only recurring criminal organization that the Shadow fought was called The Hand. And there's a series of 5 of the books where he defeats one finger of the hand in each of the books. That's wonderful. That's just wonderful. Anyway, getting back to that radio series. I mentioned that Blue Coal was the sponsor. Blue Coal was the sponsor for everything the Shadow related for a long time. For a long time. As a matter of fact, the Shadow's voice also narrated for the Blue Coal Radio Review. Yes. Oh, yes. After a public outcry and an agreement with Blue Coal in 1937, Walter Gibson teamed up with some scriptwriters to develop a new series. And the Shadow went onto the airwaves with an episode called The Death House Rescue on September 26, 1937, on the Mutual broadcasting system. And thus began the official radio drama with 22-year-old Orson Welles, only 22 years old, as Lamont Cranston, a wealthy young man about town. Incidentally, and I'm sorry, audio podcast listeners, I'm going to show you some publicity photos of the Shadow on the radio. Now, keep in mind, number one, that we already knew what the Shadow looked like from the magazines and the novels. Number two, they never used a costume on the radio because he was invisible and nobody could see him, so they didn't need a costume. But for some reason, they decided to use the costume in publicity, and it's ridiculous looking every time they do it. There's Orson Welles as the Shadow in front of the Mutual Network microphone, and it's hilarious. It's important to point out, Orson Welles did not speak the signature line, "Who knows what evil lurks in the hearts of men?" Frederick did that, using a water glass next to his mouth for the echo effect. The famous catchphrase was accompanied by the strains of an excerpt from Opus 31 of the Camille Saint-Saëns classical composition Les Rouleaux d'Omphale. In the debut episode, Cranston explains he spent years studying in London, Paris, Vienna, Egypt, China, India, learning different fields of science as well as the old mysteries that modern science hasn't rediscovered. Stuff I've already told you. After Welles departed the show in 1938, Bill Johnstone was chosen to replace him, and he played him for 5 seasons, and he also has his own ridiculous publicity photo costume on. Following Johnstone's departure, the Shadow was portrayed by actors like Brett Morrison, the longest of the Shadows, 10 years in 2 separate runs, and he also has his own ridiculous, dressed up in the costume publicity photo. John Archer also played the Shadow. Stephen Courtley. The actors, by the way, on the show, The Shadow, were very rarely credited. You really did not know who they were. Yes. The radio drama controversially introduced Margot Lane, who was played by Agnes Moorehead, the beautiful, we love her, we did a whole show on her, Agnes Moorehead. And where's my freaking picture of Agnes Moorehead? Did I not load that picture? I guess I didn't. I figured all you guys know what she looks like. I did a whole show on her. And she was Cranston's love interest, crime-solving partner, and the only person who knows his identity is the Shadow. Described as Cranston's friend and companion in many episodes, the exact nature of their relationship was not explicitly stated, but Margot mentions in the first episode that she loves him and she hopes that he will retire the Shadow identity and operate without secrecy if the police really need his help. 4 years after the radio show began, they put the character in the print version, and her sudden, unexplained appearance in the print version annoyed readers and generated a flurry of hate mail that was actually printed on the Shadow magazine's letters page. They embraced it. In the early scripts of the drama, the character's name was spelled Margot, Margot, but they dropped the T after a while. And the name itself was inspired by a woman named Margot Stevenson. And she was a Broadway ingenue who would later be chosen to voice Margot Lane opposite Orson Welles' The Shadow during the 1938 Goodrich summer season of radio drama. So that's who inspired Margot Lane. There were a number of records, not only of past episodes from the radio, but in 1968, they brought back a bunch of the people who had actually played in the series. Brett Morrison, Grace Matthews, Santos Ortega, and a ton of them. Ken Roberts returned as the announcer, and they did some new episodes. Throughout the 70s, 80s, and 90s, dozens of LPs appeared in print from other record labels featuring the original broadcasts from the show. That's where I first heard the show. Well, no, wait a minute. I heard it on a station in Indianapolis. Then I went to the Union Township Elementary School library, and there were actually LPs there with the Shadow on them. Yes. Yes. Guess what? There was a comic strip. Oh, yeah. A comic strip inked by Vernon Green. Look at that guy. Hey, everybody. Come on in here. I'm drawing the Shadow. It's actually been a comic strip and also comics. Okay. Now, the strip was actually written by Walter B. Gibson, the main guy. And they had plot lines adapted from the magazines. It ran until June of 1942. There were 14 complete stories. I'm not even going to get into the comics. Marvel Comics did the Shadow. Dark Horse Comics did the Shadow. Dynamite Entertainment did the Shadow. There's got to be 25 different versions of the Shadow. Yeah. The Shadow's been spoofed many times. Oh, many, many, many times. Many, many, many times. During the superhero revival of the 1960s, Archie Comics published an 8-issue series of the Shadow under the Mighty Comics imprint. Later issues of that series were written by Superman co-creator Jerry Siegel. What do you think about that? DC Comics in the 70s published an interpretation of the character. The Shadow appeared in Batman number 253, in which Batman teams with an aging Shadow and calls the famous crime fighter his biggest inspiration. In Batman 259, he again meets the Shadow, and we learn that in the past, the Shadow had saved Bruce Wayne's life when the latter was a boy, and the Shadow knows Batman's secret identity. He assures Batman, however, that his secret identity is safe with him. He's also referenced in Detective Comics number 446. Batman, out of costume and in the disguise of an older night janitor, makes a crime-fighting acknowledgement, a thought balloon, to the Shadow. Shadow's all over the place, man. The Dave Stevens nostalgic comic series, The Rocketeer, contains a number of pop culture references to the 1930s. Various characters from the Shadow's Pulp magazine and novel life make appearances in the storyline published in Rocketeer Adventure magazine, including the Shadow's famous alter ego, Lamont Cranston. So there's an homage for you. In the early 90s, DC published a new Shadow comic book called The Shadow Strikes, which is actually the name of some movie from back in the day. There were a number of short films that were made of The Shadow back in the day. But the movie The Shadow Strikes was released in 1937, and it starred Rod LaRocque in the title role. Lamont Cranston assumes the secret identity of the Shadow in order to thwart an attempted robbery in an attorney office. Both the Shadow Strikes and its sequel, International Crime, were released by Grand National Pictures. LaRocque returned for International Crime, and in this version, reporter Lamont Cranston, despite being spelled Granston in the previous film, is an amateur criminologist and detective who uses the name of the Shadow as a radio gimmick. It's a messed up story. It's just a mess. It's a mess. In 1940, a 15-chapter movie serial produced by Columbia Pictures and starring Victor Yori premiered in theaters. The villain of that serial, the Black Tiger, is a criminal mastermind who sabotages rail lines and factories across the United States. Lamont Cranston must become his shadowy alter ego in order to unmask the criminal and halt his fiendish crime spree. And as the Shadow, Jory wears an all-black suit and coat, as wears a black bandana, and looks ridiculous. Low-budget motion picture studio Monogram Pictures in 1946 produced a trio of very quickly produced B-movies starring Kane Richmond. And you know he's Kane Richmond because when he was in another movie, they put his name under his face. And I've got that visual. Sorry, audio podcast listeners. He starred in The Shadow Returns in January, Behind the Mask in April, and The Missing Lady in July. Kane Richmond's Shadow wore all black, the trench coat, wide-brimmed fedora, full face mask, similar to the one worn by the movie hero, The Masked Marvel, instead of the character's signature black cape with the red lining and the red scarf. 1958, The Invisible Adventure, episodes of a television pilot shot in 1957, were edited into a 1958 theatrical feature, The Invisible Avenger, released again in 1962 as Bourbon Street Shadows. But in 1994, The Shadow got the big budget treatment it always deserved. With the Alec Baldwin film, The Shadow. Penelope Ann Miller as Margot Lane. John Lone playing recurring Asian villain Shiwan Khan, who claims to be a direct descendant of Genghis Khan. As the film opens, Cranston has become the evil and corrupt Yin Ko. Literally means Dark Eagle, a brutal warlord and opium smuggler in early 1930s Tibet. Yin Ko is kidnapped by agents of the mysterious holy man Tulku, who knows the warlord is really Lamont Cranston of New York. So basically the idea is that this holy man teaches Lamont Cranston all this stuff so that he can right his past misdeeds and pay humanity back for the evil scumbum that he was. Shawan Khan, by the way, seeks to finish Genghis Khan's legacy of conquering the world by first destroying New York City using an atomic bomb as a show of power. Naturally, the shadow keeps him from doing that. Totally keeps him from doing it. Totally. Sam Raimi in 2006 said he wanted to make a shadow movie. Said he and Michael Olson would produce it for Columbia Pictures. And they were also going to use other Street and Smith pulp heroes like the Avenger and Doc Savage. But it never came about. It just never came about. Although he was asked about it at Comic-Con. He said they never could develop a good script and they're not doing it. And we're not doing it. Got me? We're just not doing it. Pinball Machine was created in 1994 and associated with the movie. 2 attempts were made to put The Shadow on television. One starred Tom Helmore as Lamont Cranston, and he looks a little too dandy to me to be like, I don't know, it's just my own. That other one that they turned into a theatrical release starred Richard Durr as the Shadow. And I think probably just, if your name's Durr, you can't be the Shadow. I'm sorry. You just can't. But that second one is notable because it is the second directorial effort of James Wong Howe, who later became a very, very big shot director. The Shadow has influenced many, 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 many other heroes. Batman is number one on the list. Big time. Alan Moore has credited the Shadow as being one of the key influences for the creation of V. If you've ever seen the movie V for Vendetta, the Shadow was his inspiration for that. The 2015 video game Fallout 4 includes a quest series centered on a character called the Silver Shroud, a crime-fighting detective from old world radio shows that was, in fact, inspired by none other than the Shadow. Do I got anything else to tell you about the Shadow? I know I got some images I didn't use here for some reason. Doesn't really matter, but that's okay. That's okay. That's all I got to tell you about the Shadow, man. Just talking about the Shadow, and we can dig it. Let's see what's been happening in our intrepid chat room, shall we? I think we shall. Lydia Teasdale says, my earliest knowledge of the Shadow was from growing up watching Blackadder. Well, that's a darn fine reference. I'll tell you, I love Blackadder. Sober as the Judge said, did any of the radio shows have him using pistols? I believe so, but I'm not sure whether they were the trademark 1911 pistols from the print variation. The Wolf says, of course, you might as well just call him McLaren, Jack, Jake, Jim, Frank, Bill, Mike, or some pervious name like that. Kent is just as perv, I guess. Has to be a racy name. Maybe he knows Thomas Dolby. He knows how to blind you. Yes, with science. Looks more like Count All-You-Card than the Shadow. Count All-You-Card. If you're really smart, you can unlock the mystery of that. Sober as a Judge says a lot of the early Batman comments directly plagiarized drawings and scenes from the Shadow comics. Yeah, you got that right. I think if you go to the Internet Archive and you listen to episodes of The Shadow, and they've got all of them there, you know, don't listen to the 1930. Go a few years ahead where they're actually listenable to. You'll be shocked at how violent they are. People thrown into acid, people, I mean, it's, you know, not for the weak of mind or spirit. No. Tomorrow on the Tom Gulley Show, by the way, I would like to thank once again for Sober as a Judge for the $20 super chat. That was extremely generous, and it is greatly appreciated here on the show. But tomorrow we will cover the Rockford Files. Now, I have had discussions with the world's leading expert on the Rockford Files, Ed Robertson. Friend of the show, friend of me, been interviewing him since the mid-90s. I'm heavily quoted in the foreword, the introduction of his latest book. Gotta be 3/4 of a page. I mean, it's almost sacrilege to do a show on the Rockford Files without the guy who wrote the book, The Rockford Files Companion, without the guy that knew James Garner. I have access to this guy. But as I told Ed in my groveling, mealy-mouthed, spineless Facebook message to him, number one, I don't want to wear out my Ed Robertson card. Okay, I don't want to take advantage. You know what I mean? Number two, people have lives and things to do on Sundays. Not me, of course. Not me. But people like Ed Robertson. And I know that his nationally syndicated radio program called TV Confidential, which is also in podcast form, I highly recommend it to everybody at TV Confidential on X, formerly known as Twitter. And then number three, I would like Ed to come on when we do a show about James Garner, because Ed is also the leading expert on Maverick and James Garner in general. And Ed said, think nothing of it, and I would love to come on and talk James Garner on your show later on. So the good news is Ed will come on and he will talk about James Garner in total. And that'll be a heck of a show. Sober as a Judge says, the Shadow once hypnotized a guy holding a live grenade and he ended up blowing himself up, chilling. Yeah, they did stuff like that. Man, on the Shadow, they didn't have any problem at all. Just wacko. I mean, not to mention a lot of other shows. I was a communist for the FBI. There was a lot of shows. The Whistler, there were a lot of shows that were violent. Very violent. I mean, the episode of The Shadow I just played, in the opening scene, the warden takes a knife to the... And then later on, a judge gets thrown into a pit of crocodiles. Two ladies are threatened with it. And then the evildoer gets thrown into the pit of crocodiles by some dim-witted giant guy. It's, you know, you want to hang around with the Shadow, you better be ready for some, you know what I mean? Anyway, that's all I got to tell you about the Shadow. Do me a favor, like and share and subscribe and retweet, all of those absolutely free things you can do. that help us with the algorithm, the almighty, all-powerful, all-knowing algorithm. Only cost you a click. Nobody's going to charge you for a click. And, if you want, come on in tomorrow. We'll talk Rockford Files. I have not laid out the shows for next week yet. I'll do that tomorrow. But we will talk the Rockford Files tomorrow. Can you dig it? What's a good song to play on the way out? What's a good song? I don't think I have anything particularly shadowish, really. What do we got in the still store here? Passing in the night, that's the point, my friend. That's the point might be pretty good to play. That's what we're going to play. That's the point, my friend. You saw it land. Dedicate that song to J.C. Vastgod, who never makes a point on this show in our chat room. It's very snarky. Arsenal versus Manchester City tomorrow in the Carabao Cup. So be on the lookout for that. Hey, you guys are the best. Thank you for being here. I can't tell you how much I appreciate it. Share with a friend that has the same sickness for bizarre knowledge that you do. And if you have one. And there's not many of us. There's not many of us. And I'm looking at that old clock on the wall, and it says, time to get some blue coal. Ask your dealer to fill it to the very top. Anyway. Oh, man. You don't have to go home, but you can't stay here. A lot of past episodes that are on our YouTube page and our audio podcast page, which is also quite popular. If you don't like my face. And why should you? And with all that being said, I think the only thing left to say is my first college roommate had a forehead you could play handball on. And the only thing left to say is, till next time, we'll see you next time. The weed of crime bears bitter fruit. Crime does not pay.
There's a room with a restless air, voices rising everywhere. Most fall wide or miss their mark till one cuts through and stops the spark. No long road, no winding tale, just the right thought set to sail. The room goes still for half a beat, then the band comes in complete. That's the point, my pal, you saw it land. Right in time with a swing of the band. That's the point, my dear, you saw it too. Tom Gulley, yeah, he's pointing at you. That's the point, my pal, you saw it land. Right in time with a swing of the band. That's the point, my dear, you saw it too. Tom Gulley, yeah, he's pointing at you. Some press hard just to be heard, dressing noise up into words. But Mr. Gulley lifts a hand and the room falls in with a band. No flourish, nothing grand, just a thought you understand. When the rhythm nods along, you know you've landed something strong. That's the point, my pal, you saw it land. Right in time with a swing of the band. That's the point, my